Hard Rock's review Stephen Norrington's Blade from 1998. So yes, we are back once again ready to discuss another horror film on the channel and also a superhero film, and one that I hadn't seen for many, many years since I was very, very young, and rewatched it a few days ago now, and I wanted to share my thoughts on the channel of this film. So yes, first of all, there will be a spoiler warning. If you haven't seen this film, I simply recommend seeing it first and then come back to this video, and we can go from there, and we can talk about this film if you want in the comments, and share your thoughts on this and all things superheroes and also horror films, of course, to celebrate the Halloween season. And so yes, well, that said, let's discuss my thoughts on this film. And it's a very nostalgic film for me, because when I was 8 years old, I kind of it was one of the first films that I kind of snuck out of my parents' cupboard. They had VHSs filled in this cupboard, ones in a particular section I wasn't allowed to watch, of course, 18 rated films. And at that point, I kind of wanted to see this, so I snuck it out of the cupboard and watched it in my room on the quiet. And just it's one that I just immediately had to put off, because the first sequence really of this film in the nightclub, all the vampires covered in blood, of course, all the scary faces, and just the editing there and all this kind of stuff, and the nature of that scene with that one, kind of civilian, in that nightclub full of vampires, I just couldn't continue. I put my hands over my face and just kind of put it off. And for a long time, I didn't go back to the film. It was probably quite a few months, that I kind of waited, and finally went back to the film, watched it entirely, and enjoyed the film. And I think Blade 2 as well I've seen, and Blade Trinity, which I didn't like at all, really, that one. But just seeing the first Blade again, it's been many, many years since I saw this. I was probably around 10 the last time I actually watched this film. So seen it a few times, and I do enjoy this one quite a bit. I think it's definitely got a lot of elements in this one that are quite unique, and I think for me, kind of the campiness to this, and the over-the-top nature, and the comedy at times, and just the action in general. It's very fun, and also this is interesting because one of the first proper successes for Marvel, in their films, of course. Blade, the character, who's a really interesting character. I love how he's kind of half human, half vampire, of course, and considered a day walker, of course. So he can walk around in the daylight. He doesn't have the kind of weaknesses that the vampires have, but he has the strengths, of course, and a very fascinating character. And also it's a very interesting character. The film blends different genres together, the horror genre, of course, with the kind of mythology of vampires and all this kind of stuff, with just the superhero genre, the origin story that it is. I think it's very interesting. We have Kristofferson, who very sadly passed away a few days ago now. It's on Saturday the 28th. He sadly passed away, and he's in this film, and I just loved this character, and particularly him and Blade together. I think is probably the best aspect of this film, and of course just seeing the chemistry between the two of them, and just individually these two characters, it's just really so good. I think the writing is very good here, but especially the performances. That's what really makes it shine. Of course, Wesley Snipes is just so good in this role, of course, and Kristofferson as well, as Whistler, I find is a great, character, the mentor to Blade, and I really like the backstory as well. We learn that, he kind of showed him the ways, he brought him up, and, I think, just this kind of father-son dynamic, if you will, was really well done, and just the warmth, from the character of Whistler, and just the way he kind of, patches up Blade, as well over the course of the film. Also, Nibush Wright as Karen, I found was enjoyable in this film. Karen is not the best character, really, in this film. I find the chemistry is nice, you've got some interesting moments, but it's just not the most interesting of characters, with Karen, and the way she's, of course, bitten. It's quite cool that, Blade is kind of then kind of looking after her and stuff, but, I think just, the character of Karen is not that enjoyable, really, and I think she's just kind of there, you could say, throughout a lot of the film. After that, the introduction of the character, which was really interesting, I think after that she's just kind of there, and all the other characters kind of take over and outshine this character in particular. And I think Deacon as well, the villain, of course played by Stephen Dorff, I found to be very enjoyable at times, and I think it's mainly in the second half, and especially the final act, where the villain and his plans and all this, and the way it comes together for me, it's just not as satisfying as had been promised, really, throughout the film, and the whole kind of idea of the blood god, which is really cool, and interesting and quite epic. I think when it actually happens in the final act, it really isn't quite for me, and I think it's just a lot of underwhelming moments, in that final act. And I think Blade's mother as well, when she comes into it, it's a bit underwhelming for me. Quite cool that we learn that she wasn't dead the whole time, and she's actually a vampire herself. But I think just the interactions here, it's not very good for me, really, and it's just kind of non-existent, and doesn't really live up to the promise, that could have been, and especially with the Blood God, the whole kind of bring about that. It was very interesting throughout the film, the lore of this, and just anticipating what would happen. I couldn't quite remember, off memory, what happened in the final act, in this one. So it's quite, it's definitely anticipating something quite big, and then when it happened, and I, just kind of, was reacting to it. It wasn't really something that was that satisfying for me, and just some of the action in the final act, and just the way the film is a bit drawn out there. It's just, it could have been trimmed. I think I think the final act, some of the action is a bit, it's not the best. You could say, but the rest of the film, one of the best things about this is the action and just the style to this. I think, and the whole kind of blending of genres. Horror genre, superhero genre, of course, and martial arts as well. I thought was really, really good at times, and just kind of sci-fi fantasy as well. And the way that Stephen Norrington directs this, I think is really, really effective at times, and it's just good, campy fun, and also quite unique in the editing as well. The way it's kind of put together, and just the visuals in general at times quite effective. And I think especially the first kind of opening sequence, this was really something else. Kind of as I say, I couldn't get through this when I first saw it as a kid because it was so scary, and it really is so affecting. Just the way this is put together here, it's just so tense, and that is the introduction as well of Blade, and that was one of the best moments of the film actually for me, and just a lot of the action in this is just so cool as well, and really felt action, the audio design to this, just the sound effects, and the stunt work here, it's just classic action, and I think just as we go throughout this film, I was quite invested, in this group of characters, and the villain himself, Stephen Dorff, I think gives a very good performance at times, and I think this villain of Deacon Frost, definitely some interesting moments. Could have been a great villain, but not quite there. I think it kind of falls in a bit to the kind of whiny villain, trope, and I think in the final act it doesn't quite, feel as authentic as well. With the way it comes together and his reactions to what things is going on, of course. But some of his sidekicks in the film, I think are quite enjoyable as well. The campy sidekicks in this, just some really funny moments, wacky moments in this film. I think the humour at times is so funny, and just really out there, bizarre moments, of course, and I think just a nice flow to the film for the most part. The way it kind of has a lot of drama, and things that you can get invested in with the lore. I really, especially as a kid as well, I was just quite wowed, to see a film like this. Of course, just about vampires deconstructing the kind of mythology, and just seeing this as a superhero film, an action film, and really exploring vampires in a very interesting way. It was really cool to me, of course, and seeing it again, it really is. It's very interesting at first, especially. I think once Kris Kristofferson goes out of the film, Whistler, and we've got quite a few of the characters actually, being picked off, of course. Kier as well. His character, one of the vampire elders, in the film, which was a really cool sequence when they're all kind of gathering, of course. At first, I think once the characters are getting picked off, and we have just more of a general action film here, I think it kind of goes, a bit downhill, and it's not ever as investing, for me, as it was in the first half. I guess looking on it really throughout the film, but I do enjoy the film consistently, to a standard, and I think this is definitely a good, solid film with some really, really good elements to the film. I think just the action at times, is really, really investing, and the lore to this, and just seeing the vampire elders and all this, and then the kind of really the tension, the drama between as well Kier and of course Stephen Dorff. The characters was really interesting at first, and just it didn't quite go anywhere really for me, and just characters are getting killed off in fairly generic ways at times, and it kind of culminates in this final act where it's not all that investing, but we do have some resolve, and I do love when we have that ending moment in Moscow as well, when Blade is just continuing with his vampire hunting, and that of course epically sets up any sequels that would come, and obviously we did get a few sequels as well, and we'll be talking about them, of course, at some point on the channel. But Blade, the first film, I think just really is a fun film, and just really quite interesting in the way it's kind of, as I say, blending genres. The performances at times are very good, especially Wesley Snipes and Kris Kristofferson in this film. I thought both were great, and just seeing Wesley Snipes in this, it's just, he's so great in this film, and just really epic character, and it is an epic film at times. Even in the final act, it's still an epic kind of bombastic film, but I think just in that final act there was just something missing in quite a few areas, and it's a bit generic, in terms of the action and stuff, and the way it kind of comes together and plays out there, and it could have really kind of delivered what was set up, the promise of this, and the lore, and all the kind of the meetings, of course, throughout the film, and just the atmosphere, I think, that's created, in their first half, wasn't quite there. In the second half, it felt a bit, kind of disjointed, and, the change of locations, yeah, but I think still just the actual overall tone of the film wasn't quite, that kind of really nice blend that the first act, especially the first half had, and, just think some of the characters and what's going on in the final act, as I say, isn't quite satisfying enough for me, and, the mother, of course, coming into it, that's quite strange, and just the villain as well, played by Stephen Dorff, very good throughout the film, definitely, kind of my kind of villain at times, but in the final act doesn't quite work as well as it should have done, and just I think for example Kier as well, could have been used a bit more in the film, and because very interesting chemistry and kind of dynamics between Kier and of course Stephen Dorff, and I think just loads of different things going on at first, but I think that kind of loses that sense of kind of complexity in the second half, and just the final act, as I say, is a bit generic, and it kind of goes off the rails a bit there. But it's always definitely consistently engaging and an enjoyable film. Of course, a campy, fun film, definitely one that is kind of for me at times, and just for the over-the-top action, and the kind of comedy in this at times, and just epic characters like Blade, of course. Just definitely something I gravitate towards for sure. And just as a Marvel film as well, this is a good solid film, and one that is very unique, and it's really just a cool film. This for the most part, I think it's a cool film. Stylish moments, of course, a nice blend of genres, and some investing characters for sure, and a real interesting backstories of Blade, and the lore is definitely there at times in the film, and it's it's really just engaging as a vampire film, and a great film to watch again, the Halloween season, and I think just haven't seen this for many years, as I say, and it was really cool to return to this one again, and just all the memories came back to me, and just real nostalgic film for me, and one that I do consider to be a really solid film. So overall, my rating for this film is a 72%. So a high score from me for sure, and this is one I think could have been a lot better if it had been based on the first half or so of the film. But regardless of that, I think definitely a solid film, and one that I really enjoy overall. And I think just as a fun, campy film, I think as well as a Marvel film, it's really effective, and just. I think Wesley Snipes in this film was just really great, and just as this character Blade, and he's so cool. His clothing, of course, the outfit to this, the way it's brought to the screen, as well, the elements of his character. His kind of his strengths, the fact that he doesn't really have a lot of the vampire's weaknesses as well. The typical vampires, and he is an essential part of the plot. In this film, they're trying to use him to actually create the Blood God, of course, and so. It's quite an interesting film in that sense. It's very unique in the way it's done, that I find to be quite cool. Just the chemistry between the different characters as well, throughout the film was really good. Kristofferson, of course, and just Wesley Snipes especially was two standout, kind of actors in this film. Kier as well was very good, and he just a bit underutilized, you could say. And Stephen Dorff, I enjoyed throughout the film. So yes, Blade, that's my thoughts. Definitely a film I really enjoy, and one that I enjoy as a Marvel film. It's a horror film, and it was cool to watch this, in October, and just as a Halloween film to watch. It's really cool, and there's a lot of kind of creepy moments, in this film, and very scary at times, and other times it's just a nice campy action film really at times, and martial arts elements in this. The aspects to the film, martial arts based, I think were really good, and just the kind of blend of this is quite wacky at times. Doesn't always work perfectly, but it is definitely a good film that I really enjoy personally, and yes. It'd be great to hear your thoughts, on this film. What do you think on this? It'd be great to talk about your personal experience with this film over the years, and how do you kind of view this film, and what's your memories of this? Have you seen this a few times and all this kind of stuff? It'd be great to discuss this film in the comments, regardless, and talk about this film, horror films, of course, being the month of October, doing loads of horror content on the channel, and as well, just superhero films. This is one that I do enjoy, have always enjoyed, and have quite unique memories attached to this one, and it's really cool to see it again. It had been at least 17 years since I saw this film actually all the way through, so really cool to revisit this one, of course, and just to see it again, and yeah, it'd be great to discuss this film, and a pleasure as always to discuss horror films in the comments. As yes, as always, take care, and thanks for watching.